Yes, people, big up. We are back again with a bang. We're going to be talking all things player of the season, young player of the season, and we're going to be talking about this weekend's games as well. Big up to Rich, big up to Dave, big up to Dave Luton, and big up to Little Dan. Great to see you guys in the building. Big up to all of you for coming on. Make sure you do me a favor, people. Make sure you're following all of these people. They all put out amazing content. They're all really involved in the football community, so make sure that you do that first of all, and then please make sure that you're smashing a like and subscribe to the channel as well. It's really important that you do that. So let's talk about player of the season and young player of the season. Now, there's a debate about this, massive debate about it, in fact, from on Twitter and online that I've seen. A couple of things. Do player of the seasons and young player of the season nominations need to be separated? For example, Phil Foden and Haaland are in both young player of the season and player of the season. Is that possible? If you're a young player of the season and you're in the player of the season, does it mean you're both? It's quite a big debate about it, really. So let's start with the young player of the season, because for me, there's a couple of debates about why aren't people in it. And also there's the debate about how young should it be? Should it be under 23? Should it be under 21s? Should there be a kind of rule in that respect? Because we've got some people that are... oh, what's happened to Dan? There we go. He's back. We've got some people that are saying that at 23, 22 years old, that's kind of like, I think Foden and Isak are 24 years old and they're in the young player of the year conversation. So let's start with you, Little Dan. What's your thoughts on it? Is it a bit of a madness that at 24 years old, you can win young player of the season? Do you think, like me, that there should be a breakthrough star that's 18, 19, 20, that was kind of the surprise star of the season that's like, wow, where did he come from? Or do you not really care about this sort of convo?
I think you sort of put words into my mouth there to a degree. I think there should be like a breakthrough player of the year instead of like a young player of the year. I feel like players like you mentioned, Phil Foden. I read something just on Twitter that Kobe Mainoo was 10 years old when Alexander Isak made his senior debut. It's... for me, like, these sort of players shouldn't be classed as, reached a certain number of appearances for the first team. You can't really be classed as a young player anymore. But yeah, I think it needs maybe a different terminology on the actual award itself. I think like breakthrough player of the year, probably that sort of vibe.
Yeah, Luton Dave, I've got to come to you on this because I do think like there's a difference between a young player. Now, it's hard in football, isn't it? Because Jorginho signed the contract today and somebody said, oh, he's a bit old, isn't he? And he's 32. So it is quite hard looking at ages of players. But I look at the situation of what Little Dan said, and I kind of agree. I think players like Kobe Mainoo and Cole Palmer should be in there. Fair play. But I also look at players that have had breakthroughs that aren't going to be in there because of the players like Isak and Foden who are 24. Players like Lewis Miley, who's come through at Newcastle, you'd think, where the hell did he come from? Players like Adam Wharton that's come through at Palace, you think, where the hell did he come from? All of these guys that deserve more of a mention aren't now going to get that because Foden has to be in both because he's 24 and he gets to have a chance of winning both of the awards. Yeah, for me, it's a bit of a madness for me, Dave. Where you at, bro?
Didn't Haaland win both last season? I think.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think age limits. There are age limits. You have an under 23 competition at the moment when they in the EFL for a moment. When they go in the EFL Cup under 23s, but they can still have senior players in the team. It's a bit weird. So I would say you have to look at the people who are actually picking these nominees. Who is making all these decisions and why? Sorry, my thing's going off in my ear. Why are they choosing? Like I say, same category. You should be in one or the other. That's how I look at it. One or the other. For me, Haaland shouldn't be in it this year, should he? Really, he should be in the senior team. He's a senior player. I look at it for those people that have developed through the squad, through the academies and getting first team appearances. They become the young players for me. And at Luton, we got a few of those, in the past. We've always seen people develop through, and I'd like them people to have the opportunity. But I don't know who picks it. Who decides these? Does the Premier League as a whole decide it? Who actually takes those names and goes, oh, I think is it the journalists? I can't remember. But there should be a fixed age. I think there should be a fixed age. And I don't think it should be anything over 22, to be fair. If you're a young player, you're a young player. Anybody else, you should be in the senior play. If you're good enough to be in the senior team playing senior football, then you should be in the senior competition for everything, as far as I'm concerned. A young player is a breakthrough player. It's someone we haven't expected to come through, or, you know, like Cole Palmer this season has been on fire, hasn't he? People like him should be given the chance, and not the others. I'm looking at both lists right now, and, you know, there's 2 repeats, isn't there? Or 3 repeats, because Palmer's in both as well.
4 actually. I think there's 3 or 4.
So there should be 1 nominee in 1 section, and then don't take it away from the young people. Let the youngsters get recognition, because it's a hard enough league to play in, isn't it? And get recognised in and develop yourself in, and it could be a boost for them as well. So for me, there should be a specific age, and I wrote down 21, but maybe 21's a bit too young. 22, maybe 23 at tops. After that, you don't go in both. You don't go in both. And if it's journalists voting on it to begin with, or if it's the Premier League themselves that are voting on it, they should just adjust their rules, because they're going to miss out on loads of other people that might be good for that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. Can I just ask you guys that if you're not talking, just put yourself on mute? I'm getting loads of background noise here for some reason. Let me come to you next, Rich, because I'm going to say this. I've looked at the nominees. I don't think there's an outrage for who's there for Young Player of the Year. For me, I think there could be a mention. However, when I look at the repeats of them, I find it mad. And I totally agree with what Dave's saying. I think anybody under the age of 21 or 22, let's say tops, should be considered as the young player. I can't be having full 24-year-olds who, let's be real, some people say 25 is you're at your prime. I can't say that you should be anywhere near talking about being a young player at 24 years old, but that's just me. Now, we've got 4 players that are in both categories here. We've got Isak, who's young player and player. You've got Foden and Haaland in there as well, and you've got Cole Palmer. Now, I think that's a madness, personally, and I can think of probably 2 or 3, and if I actually dove deeper, I can probably think of more that might deserve a mention of a 21-year-old, 19, 20-year-old that could be put forward into that category. So where are you at with this, bruv?
As a supporter of a team that's not in the traditional Big Six or there or thereabouts, it just proves that they don't look outside of it. You know, as you said, those 4 players who are in both could get replaced, but I would even throw Michael Olise in there. He's been injured all year, but his return's been crazy. Branthwaite from Everton, I think he's had a very solid season. No mention. Obviously, going back to like the traditional Big Six, I'm looking at that. Where's Mickey van der Ven? I think he's had a good season. If Van Dijk's in there, I mean, Van der Ven, that slippy moment probably cost him a couple of weeks back.
No, he's been quality though. He has been quality.
He's been brilliant. So there's loads of players that have, like, as you said, could dig deeper. There's loads of players we could look into. But look at it, it's literally the traditional top 6 and those that are in European football, which is a shame. But yeah, I think they need to say you can only go in one or the other category. You know, it will spread it out more. It will give more awareness to other players. You know, because it's effectively a shop window as well. You know, and let's just say Gareth Southgate is looking at that, thinking, oh, all right, well, maybe these are the players I'm going to pick for England, the England representatives. Like, and maybe those like the Branthwaites and the Whartons and Manu's on it, so that's good. They might miss out. Anthony Gordon's another one who's had a good season, you know. But it's yeah, they need to change it.
They do, man. Dave, looking at the nominees, the young players, we might as well shout them out and have a debate about it. You've got Foden, you've got Haaland, you've got Isak, Kobe Mainu, Cole Palmer, Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, and Destiny Udogie. Those names, I mean, top players all season, to be fair. Some people questioning Kobe Mainu. I kind of get it. I know Manchester United have been a mess, but he's probably one of the only positives and young prospects that's come out of the academy, and probably only positives of their whole season, to be fair. So I don't really have any complaints about him being in there and mentioned. I think Udogie's been a really good left back for Spurs. Saliba and Saka, obviously at 22 years old, get the mention. Isak has been phenomenal, but he's 24. Likewise, Foden, I believe, is that age as well. Haaland, I know he's only 22, but let's be real. The guy's absolutely ridiculous. You know, he should be in the seniors. But Cole Palmer, for me, I think out of that list, I kind of think if I was to vote, I'd be going for Cole Palmer. I think that although I'm an Arsenal lad with Saka and Saliba in there, the goals and assists that he's got, I thought it was going to be a good signing for Chelsea, but my goodness, it's been ridiculously good. I mean, where would they actually be without him? They must be fighting down the bottom. It's that scary. So that's the one that stands out for me, Dave. What about you?
It's the one that stands out for me as well. I mean, we're preparing with 48 hours away from playing Chelsea, and my lot all think if we can stop Cole Palmer, we can stop Chelsea. When a guy has risen to that kind of prominence, I mean, he to me is the clear and obvious candidate. There are others as well. I mean, going back, I just want to kind of go back to the point where we were talking about. I believe that these should be exclusive, correct, echelons, if you like. You're either in the young player or you're not. I mean, I'm kind of thinking outside of football in like there are cultural awards in like TV and film and all that. And what they do, they have like an award for an established star and they have like what's called a breakout star. And I think to me, this season, clearly, I'm kind of looking at lads who've caught the eye in poorish teams or teams that have had issues. Cole Palmer, clearly, in the midst of the £1 billion mess, has been fantastic. 22 or 23 goals, whatever, leaving, the prospective possible champions to go there. You kind of think, has he made the right move? He has. He's made himself Chelsea's #1 player. So in the midst of all that Bowley-inspired mess, there's this kid who's been a shining light. Kobbie Mainoo, I have to mention as well, because that's an even bigger mess. That's a mess that could take years to deal with. And that kid he's made his England debut and played well on his England debut. He seems to have a bit of class about him. He doesn't seem to be ruffled by anything. He didn't have a great night Monday night, but then again, nobody in that club, apart from those away supporters, had a good night at Selhurst Park on Monday night, right? So I look at Kobbie Mainoo. I think Jared Branthwaite has been absolutely superb. I think he's fantastic. For me, he is in the back four for our European games, our Euro games, because he's way better than Maguire. My back two actually would probably be Stones and or Gurhey or Branthwaite. But I watched Branthwaite really, really closely at Luton last week when Luton were the better team. Branthwaite made a block right in injury time, probably at the end near to where Dave's standing, because I know where Dave stands in Kenilworth Road. And he was celebrating like he'd scored a worldie at the other end. And I love that. But I think he's a terrific player, Jared Branthwaite. I watched him when we were up there, I think 3 weeks ago. Man, we were awful. But again, he stood out. He's calm. He's composed. He's got a touch of the leadership about him. So I think he's a really good candidate. Adam Wharton, to me, I mean, what a gem plucked out of nowhere. I mean, if you want, a testament to Dougie Friedman's ability to find a player, there's Adam Wharton, been fantastic. I mean, the other night, I loved every minute of that Palace-Manchester United game. Not because I hate United or anything like that. I just love watching the likes of Elise and Eze do their stuff. And it's easy to focus on Eze and Elise, but I kind of look backwards. And we were talking before we came on air about how much I enjoyed the performances of Will Hughes, who kind of goes a bit under the radar. Not with the Palace fans. It sounded like they were booing at the time. They were shouting Hughes, right, which I thought was great for him. But I thought Adam Wharton was absolutely fantastic. I saw him up close at our place like 4 or 5 weeks ago. His range of passing's good. His tackling's great. I mean, the other night, he was quicker to the ball than anybody in Manchester United's midfield, right, every time. So I think he's worthy of a mention. Anthony Gordon, I think, has been really, really good. There was a lot riding on him. When he came to Newcastle, or he went to Newcastle, Amanda Staveley, they picked him out as being, that's the guy we want. So there was already a lot of pressure heaped on him. I think he's dealt with that. I don't know if he qualifies as a young player. I like Ait Nouri at Wolves. I think he's a really good lad. Been impressed with him. He's gone under the radar because Wolves go under the radar, and because the cognoscenti had Wolves not to do anything at the start of the season. Like Wolves manager goes under the radar. Wolves have gone under the radar. This kid has gone under the radar. He's a really good player. I like him. I don't know if he's doing it. But and Michael Elise, I love Michael Elise. He's the coolest dude in the league by a mile, right? I mean, he's the other night his interviews are legendary because he just doesn't seem to six it all in his style. I love him. Cole Palmer's the one for me with Branthwaite close up. But I do think, Dan, they need to keep these categories separate. I don't think there should be any overlap, really.
No, I agree, 100%. I agree, and Ronnie, big up in the chat. Ronnie disagrees and says that he thinks Saka because he's doing it in a title, and Cole Palmer's not doing it without pressure. It should be Bukayo Saka. I don't know where you guys stand with this, but I actually disagree with Ronnie. Big up, Ronnie. I actually disagree with Ronnie because I kind of feel like Bukayo Saka, when he first come on the scene at Arsenal, I can understand if we're talking about this, but this guy's been around now for 4 or 5 years. When we're talking about Palmer, he's literally come on the scene and he's burst onto the scene, and that's why.
Established, Dan.
Yeah, and that's why these categories are crazy to me, because Saka should be, in my opinion, in the player of the season conversation, but he's not, you know. So he's in the young player of the season conversation. It's all a mess, if I'm honest with you. It really, really is. Anybody disagree that Cole Palmer deserves it? Anyone going to shout any other names out?
No.
Nah, all agree on Cole Palmer. Let's move to the player of the season then, because there's some interesting picks here for me. As I say, 4 of them are again in the same category. So we've got Foden, Haaland, Isak and Palmer. They're all in there again for player of the season. That's just crazy for me. But the 4 new names are Ollie Watkins, Declan Rice, Martin Odegaard and Virgil van Dijk. Now, a lot of people are looking at Virgil van Dijk saying, how? Why? Questioning it. I've got to say, other than the last few weeks where Liverpool have completely crumbled, I think he's been brilliant, man. I can't lie. I really think Van Dijk has been amazing. However, I don't really know that he's been the best centre-back this season. I think Gabriel has. Now, I might be saying that as being biased. People might look at that and go, oh, Dan's going to say that. I honestly believe Gabriel has been better. And I think he's been better than Saliba as well, right? I don't think he gets a mention. And I wanted to bring this up with you guys tonight because you're not the Arsenal hat on like I am, and say to you, do you think that Van Dijk 1 should be in there? And do you think that Gabriel has been better than him this season? Rich, I'll start with you, bro.
Yeah, Gabriel's been probably one of the best centre-backs this season. And I was even going to chuck in Saliba as well, you know, because as a partnership, they've been brilliant. And like I said, I mentioned earlier, Van de Ven, I think, he's had a quality season too. So there's 3 already that I think should be above Van Dijk personally.
It's interesting. Little Dan, what you saying?
Like Richard said there, I think Gabriel and Saliba have just been head and shoulders better than any defensive partnership going in the league. Van Dijk's obviously been stifled by having a decent centre-back partnership. I think Konate, I think obviously Matip's been injured all season. They haven't really been solid, have they, as a unit, Liverpool defensively. So don't even know why we're even talking about fucking Villa. They can get slapped by Olympiacos in the boot. You know, it's all right, don't they? It's okay to get slapped by Real Madrid on a Wednesday instead of Olympiacos on a Thursday.
Go on, Dan.
Yeah. No, fair play. Van Dijk's elite, isn't he? He'll always be an elite centre-half, but I think Gabriel and Saliba have just been head and shoulders better than anything that we've seen in recent years in the Premier League as a defensive unit. Not really think any sort of defence in the league's really pulled up any trees this season. In my fantasy Premier League team, I've not really been putting defenders in this season because not many teams have kept clean sheets apart from Arsenal, really, have they?
No, and I think it's really key because Saliba gets all of the hype. I get why. The kid looks ridiculous, right? Absolutely ridiculous. But Gabriel's been better, man. Gabriel's been an absolute monster this season, like ridiculously good. And he's the highest scoring centre-back from set pieces. And he's been phenomenal defending from set pieces. I just don't really know why he's not got more plaudits than I believe that he deserves. I think he's a phenomenal player. At £27 million, I'm taking that all day long. You know, the guy's 25 years old now, I think, 26. He's not like he's getting towards his 30s. But I do understand why Van Dijk's got a mention, because if Liverpool were to have won the league, Van Dijk would have been mentioned as one of the players of the season because of how good he's been for Liverpool, alongside Alexis McAllister, probably, and Trent. So I get that. I just thought it was an interesting conversation. Luton Dave, let's bring you in. I don't know if you can hear us now, but I know you're having some tech problems.
Yeah,
but,
I can hear you now, yeah.
Go for it, man. We'll talk about player of the season. What do you make of it, and who do you think will get it, mate?
Do you know what? I think obviously there's a lot of public voting going on here, isn't it? So the public vote is going to be a big part of it. And I know it doesn't count for everything. I don't know who to look at because there are so... I want to give... Man City have won it the last 4 seasons. A player from Manchester City, I think, has won that award for the last 2-3 seasons minimum. I'd like to see someone different win it. And I'd like to see... I don't know. Maybe someone like Ollie Watkins give him a go. He's been on fire this season. You know, he was good when he was at Brentford. He moved to Villa, and I think he's found his way now. And I think he's up there as one of the top players of the season for me. And Declan Rice. Well, I don't think you can look past him either at times. I think he's been phenomenal when I've watched him play. And the others, you know, Haaland goes without saying. He's a bit of a machine, isn't he? And you know, he stands out, but you know, I don't know. He's been that brilliant all season this season, and I think that's the point. I think you need to have someone who's been consistent. He scores goals, but when he's not playing well, you don't see him in the game. So for me, I'd be looking for someone new. I mean, I reckon Cole Palmer might get another nomination there, but I don't know. It's the fan base. How much does the fan base votes count? So you can't really predict who's going to vote for who. You know, the Man City fans will be on it worldwide, won't they? And likewise the Arsenal fans and Villa fans. You know, so I'm going to say, for my personal point of view, for me, I'd like to see someone like Ollie Watkins win it. I don't think he will. I think it'll go back to course, and it'll be Haaland or Foden. That's what I feel. I just don't think I don't think you can get away from the votes. I think the votes affect, or they don't have 100% value, do they, the votes, because they've got a Premier League panel as well. But I don't think you can get past that popularity vote rather than people thinking with their non-football head on, if that makes sense, you know. So the Man City fans will vote for the Man City players, and likewise, you know, the Arsenal fan, everyone else will vote for their own players, rather than, I think, give it a proper look and a proper thought about who is actually the best player. And I think that's where it goes wrong, because your loyalties for your team sometimes outweighs what you should be thinking about when you're judging these things. Because if there's a Luton player in there, obviously I'd vote for him. But there isn't.
Of course.
You know, like in the Young Player of the Year, apart from his atrocious penalty thing at the weekend against Everton, David Mengi has been on fire this season for Luton Town. You know, he's been brilliant. He should still be at Manchester United. He's that good for me. And you talk about pressure also. When you talked about the pressure earlier, the pressure of a relegation team is just as tough as the pressure as the top team. So why aren't there anybody that's been in the relegation zone, you know, and fought their way out of it like Crystal Palace have or Bournemouth have? Why aren't their nominees in there? You know, that's how I look at it. But I suspect you're going to get same old, to be fair. Same old. So
Yeah,
I reckon you're going to end up with a Man City player winning it.
I am quite surprised that Rodri's not nominated.
Yeah, that is mad for me. Absolutely mad. The stats are crazy. The GA is crazy. The leadership qualities are crazy.
Complete player,
man. It's stunning for me that he ain't there, but he ain't. I don't know how these things get nominated. But it makes me laugh. I don't quite understand it. But there we go. Big up to Northside's channel, by the way, and Northside for everyone coming over. Big up for that, and welcome to you. Talking about the player of the year. Listen, I'm going to put Declan Rice forward for consistency and for taking Arsenal forward for what I think has been a phenomenal season for a player that cost 105 million that nobody is mentioning or questioning whatsoever about whether that was a waste of money. I think when you look at you do think it's a waste of money, Dave. You saying?
No.
Oh.
I want to come in. I want to come in, Gaffer, and I'm going to pick Declan Rice as my player of the year by a mile. I think the guy's been absolutely brilliant. He's done everything it said on the tin. He's a leader. He's personality. He drives box to box. He's made the title race pretty much on his own, because Arsenal this year have not folded like they did last year, right? This time last year, Arsenal were folding and heading towards Forest to be beaten at Forest and for the title to be just shoved to Manchester. This guy, I absolutely love this guy. And the thing is, you know, this idea of one-eyed football supporters does my nut. That's unintellectual. I mean, I could sit here and tell you, right, I'm going to be tapping my button 10 million times to get Murillo the player of the year because he's got the best smile in the Premier League, right? But I can't do that. And I look at Declan, every time I look at Declan Rice, I'm impressed by the human being. I'm impressed by the footballer. And I think Arsenal are so much better with him than they were without him. We've talked quite rightly about Saliba. We knew about Saliba from last year. Saliba's been excellent, right? Gabriel has improved out of all recognition from last year. We weren't having these conversations about Gabriel last year. And as you lads were talking, all four of you, and all four of you have said sensible things to me. I'm kind of thinking, well, Gabriel and Saliba have become this brilliant, like little dancers. They've become this brilliant combination, but they've had this guy in front of them to help them, and I think he's been magnificent. Everything the guy does is, whether it's defending his girl, his lady from trolls on social media, or whatever. The guy is just class. I think he's fantastic, right? I really like the guy. So he's my choice for it, and I think he's like you were saying, Dan. I think he's quite a clear choice, certainly for me. I mean, Phil Foden has scored a hell of a lot of goals. It's been fantastic. He seems to every year he seems to incrementally improve on what he's done previously, right? So I think he's in the mix. He scored 20 odd goals. Cole Palmer, if he were not to be in the other category, would be a live contender in this category. And like Dave says, I wrote some names. Ollie Watkins is a perfectly good candidate, but then to me, so is John McGinn. Because let's be honest, Aston Villa, whether you like them or not, are the breakout team this year. We never expected them to be where they are. Okay, they're probably going to go out to Marinaki's Mark II tonight. But for them to even be in the top four is a great achievement, right? And McGinn, because McGinn's a sort of
little Dan's not having it.
a gritty player. Hang on.
Dave, take your tablets right now.
Oh, little Dan. I'm just checking, mate. I've got two eyes rather than one, mate. Just have a look there. Can you see him? Right.
You are having John McGinn in this conversation, Dave. Not on mine, Nelly. You're having John McGinn in this conversation. I will vote for Murillo before John McGinn.
Flattery, dear boy, will get you everywhere. All right. I'll move on from McGinn and Morgan Rogers and Concert and all the others I was going to mention. Right. Just joking. I mean, to me, I tell you what, thinking of young Wharton, even though he came halfway through the season, his body of work since he's come to Palace is fantastic. I mean, I look at Luton, I think Ross Barkley's been fantastic for them. We all said that say we stay up and say Luton go down, and none of us know yet, would we have Ross Barkley at the City Ground? And I think uniformly across the board, we'd have that guy. I think he's been fantastic, right? He's been really good.
He's been one of the signings of the season for me. I really believe that.
And I'll tell you what, I've got to chuck in Isak is a perfectly good candidate as well. He's been great. Dom Solanke at Bournemouth.
Yeah, good
Bruno
shot.
Guimaraes. Dom Solanke scored a hell of a lot of goals. What you got to remember, Bournemouth are top half, way above what anybody expected of them. So, there are a bunch of candidates. Rodri has to. I mean, Rodri just seems like he can do everything. Although actually the two times I've seen him this year, one he got sent off, and the other time against us a couple of weeks ago, he was actually quite mediocre. But my standout candidate is Declan Rice by a country mile. I think the guy's.
It's interesting. It's going to be. I think whoever wins the league, that team will have a player that wins player of the season, and that's why I think it will be Phil Foden who gets it, because I don't think that Man City are going to drop. Unfortunately, I pray they will, but I can't see it. So I think it will be Phil Foden. But Declan Rice, I think, deserves a mention as the next one after Phil Foden, in my opinion. Lil Dan, what are you saying to that, Declan Rice and Foden?
I hate how I'm having to sort of repeat what everyone's saying. For me, if I want to try and be as basic as possible, whoever wins the league, it's either Declan Rice or Rodri for me. Those two players. Declan Rice would be the catalyst which would have won you the league. And if you look at the stats, when Roger hasn't lost a game in over a year now, has he? It's something ridiculous. If Haaland wouldn't have had that goal-scoring monster haul last season, he should have won the Ballon d'Or for me, Roger. The amount of games that he won single-handedly, scored the winner in the Champions League final, is an absolute monster.
Absolutely.
I think it's literally as basic as that. Whoever wins the title, it's that centre midfielder.
It's mad for Rodri not even to be on that list. It's just mad, isn't it? Yeah. I don't get that at all.
If you think as well, mate, with City, I think that I really do think they missed Gundogan. He was that good. And so for Foden has stepped up and filled that gap to a certain extent, you know what I mean? So, and he still looks like a little lad. I mean, his little lad looks the same age as Phil does, little Ronnie. So, and him and Saka, if you like, are the two prime examples. They're still kids, basically, but they have been around for so long. But like the boys say, whoever wins the league will probably determine who gets it. And if City win it, You know, if
It
City
will.
win it, I think
And you know
Foden
what,
gets it.
Foden, to be fair to Foden, like I know I'm with Little Dan in terms of Rodri, but Foden has done it when KDB was out. When Haaland had that little spell, Foden was their best player. Bernardo and Grealish and Doku haven't really had their best season, but Foden's had to fill that space. And there was pressure on Foden this season. Where's he going to be? Is he going to compete? Because leaving last season when they won the treble, he did look at Phil Foden and go, he's the reason they've won the treble. You know, he had a fairly good season, but nothing like this season. I think this season he's been phenomenal, man. And I'll say this, and I keep saying it again, most of the people that we are talking about this season are all English. If we do not win this bloody competition in the summer, it is a disgrace. I will say that again. Harry Kane, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka, what's his name? Declan Rice, Phil Foden, Cole Palmer, Ollie Watkins. They're all English. If Southgate can't do it, please see you later. Luton Dave, just quickly, I was watching Saturday Social at the weekend and I was amazed that Ross Barkley was not voted as the best Luton player this season. It was actually Alfie Doughty. What did you think of that?
I'm amazed too, because for all the supporters trust had their votes last week, and he won that. I know he's going to win Diamond Player of the Month. He's probably going to win Player of the Year for all the other aspects. He has been our best player. He's a big fish in a very small pond. He stands out. Whatever he does, he stands out for us. I think he's just been class all the way around. So, but Alfie Doughty has been brilliant too this season. So I can see how he's pushed himself on. He was a good provider of the ball, good pass, quick, good defence. But there's only one player in our team that should get Player of the Season. I sort of know that he probably will, and I've seen some videos of him that's been produced already. So I think everyone's expecting that to happen, and you can't look past him. You're right, he was the signing of the season. He came in super late. It was kept really under the radar at the very beginning. No one expected that to come in. It was like a couple of weeks before the season started. He was at the training camp. Absolute coup by Gary Sweet, who got him in. He's obviously going to do the off, isn't he? Especially if we get relegated, he'll do the off. But then where does he fit in somewhere else? He's a fantastic player in our squad, but he doesn't get a start in your squad, you know, and that's how I look at it. So where's he going to go? If he wants to stay in the Premier League, which he should, he's good enough. I think he was good enough to make the England squad this season on his performances. But where would he go? And if he's going to go to, you know, a lower club in the Premier League, I would say, if he doesn't stay with us, he'll end up maybe at Forest, maybe at Brentford, maybe at somewhere around that area, you know, or Palace even, you never know. But will he get a team built around him like he has had at Luton, which has made him stand out? That is the thing that's made him stand out, because he's the pivotal player in our team. And when he's on form, which he has been for most of the season, not all, but most of the season, he performs really well, but he looks outstanding. And that's not putting our other players down, because we put in a fair shift, I think, this season. But he stands out because of that. I think of that. If I think about Matt Le Tissier, he was a good player, wasn't he? But he stood out in the Southampton team, never went anywhere else. But I don't think he would have stood out anywhere else. And so he knew where his bread and butter was, and he stayed there. And I feel Barkley's a bit like that. Christian Eriksen last season, when he was playing for Brentford, was outstanding. He's not been that great for Manchester United. He doesn't stand out as much. And I think Barkley needs to think about what he's going to do in the future, where he's going to go and what team selects him, or whatever team picks him, he needs to be playing regular football because he's a quality player. So I wasn't aware of Doughty getting that award, Dan, but I would say I can see why, but I would have said Barkley all day long. And I reckon Barkley's getting a clean sweep at the sponsors do next week and the end of season stuff like that.
No, I agree. I think Barkley deserves it as well. I think he's been outstanding. And you talk about next clubs. I mean, Everton, Richo in the chat is talking about Everton potentially getting him back. I think he'd go in there. I think Bournemouth or Brentford, somewhere like that, I think he'd be great at, and I think he would flourish. But I kind of asked a question to you, Dave, and stick with you on this, because if Luton do go down, and a lot of people are saying the bottom three are going down now, it's all done. I don't know. I've no idea. There's a lot of football left to play. Where do the players like Barkley, like Lokonga, is there a chance that he comes back to us, or could you get somebody like that in the Championship? Adebayo, Ogbene, all these players that have done really well. where do you see the future for those players if you do go down to the Championship? Do you have the confidence that they'll stay and try and fight and get you back up?
I have no confidence that Barkley will stay if we get relegated. So that they'll get him gone. I mean, I don't mean get him gone because I'd love him to stay, but I don't think he will stay. I think someone will come in for him. Lukonga, I know I talk about this and Arsenal fans laugh at me when I say it, but he's been superb for us this season. And I think if we stayed up, we'd probably try and buy him. I think if we go down, he's not coming with us, is he? Unless his agent can't get him anywhere else, because he's not going to get back in the Arsenal team at this rate, is he, at this current thing? I'm confident that the likes of Ogbeni will stay. He's only been with us, one season really. I'm confident he will stay. I think Gabe Osho's out of contract. I think he may get an offer somewhere else. Alfie, maybe. I think the core of the team will stay. But I do worry, about Adebayo, because he's quality. He's a quality striker. And if he had a bigger team, so I don't want to put my team down, but it sounds like I am. If he had a bigger team, there's some better players around him, he might score lots more goals. And when he came on against Wolves the other week, I thought he looked class, even for the 20 minutes he was on. I thought he was class. And we've missed him. And again, the other night against Everton, he was cool. So I think we'll struggle to keep some players, but I think the core of the team will stay. And the recruitment's all probably already on, isn't it? Because this is this beginning of our regeneration, really. If we get relegated at the weekend, because it's a possibility, if we don't get a point against West Ham, we're down, then I think we'll find out very quickly who's going to go and who's going to stay. But I think the ones I'll be worried about really is Adebayo. Barkley's going to go. I'd love to sign Lukonga, and I know I might get laughed at, but I think his quality in our team. And this is what I was saying earlier. He stands out in our team. When he played for Arsenal, he didn't like him. He didn't think he was any. And I feel the same with Mengi. Mengi, honestly, I don't know how Manchester United let him go. I really don't. He's 21 years old or something around that age, and he's superb. And he's better than what they had.
Might want to stay at Luton instead of going back to Man United. You never know.
Well, I think. Do you know what? He's in a 3-year contract, so I suspect he will stay. And the likes of them will give us that boost to maybe try and get back up. But we know, let's be realistic. It's not going to be easy if we go down to come straight back in. And the more of your squad you can take down and keep with you, the better advantage you're going to have. Money aside. So for me, I think the core will stay. The core will stay, but Barkley will go. If we stay up, will Barkley stay with us? Don't know. There's the other thing. If we do stay up, I'd love him to stay because he's been brilliant. I think he plays every week with us. He goes anywhere else, he plays that cameo roles. That's how I feel about him. So I think if we stay up, we'll keep the majority of people. If we go down, we might lose 2 or 3. Ogbeni, for me, hasn't enough experience yet. Yeah, he come from Rotherham, didn't he? So Adebayo is the one everybody's sniffing around, I would imagine, because he's got huge potential.
Yeah,
I know you mentioned Barkley, Dave. Sorry. The 2 actually, I think, for my club in Palace will be Mengi and Kabore.
Well, you see, the thing with Kabore is he got a bit injury prone this season. And when he plays well, he's really
right now to the team. We've got a very injury-prone squad.
Yeah, but the thing is with Kabore, right? When he's on form, he's brilliant, and then he makes some really, really poor mistakes at times. So when he's on fire, I love him. We could have done with him the other week when we played Man City, but we couldn't, obviously. But it's consistency, isn't it, for him? He will go somewhere else. He won't stay with us. I wouldn't have thought. Well, he was on loan anyway. That's the point. You've got your loan players. Never fall in love with a loan player, people, because when you do, they bugger off somewhere else. And
then
that is probably one of the most frustrating things, I suppose, for you guys, that they all do well with you guys and then go, right, now I'll go and get me moved to wherever it be in the top 6 or whatever. So I understand and appreciate that. I mean, listen, Dave, you say, well, we might be going down if we don't pick up a point. You have got an unbelievable chance of picking up points against West Ham. They are dusty as dusty can be. They have completely given up. Moyes is going. They're getting Lopetegui in. None of their players have any clue of whether their futures lies at the moment. I'll be honest with you, Dave. I'll give you a chance against West Ham. I might not against some of the other teams at the moment, but I would definitely give you a chance against West Ham. So fill me with some optimism, man. Come on.
Well, look, we've been in scraps like this before in the past. We've been on last day seasons where we have to win or we have to make sure we get more than one goal. And that's happened, you know. Look at Antich at Man City. We look at the Derby game, Luton Derby, many, many years ago. And so we're always on it. We're always on it. I think Ian Dowie scored a late goal once. So can we get a result? We're all going to West Ham thinking we can get a result. We need not to lose. That's all we need, not to lose. Yeah, look, do you know, the other thing I worry about here is the wrong Chelsea turns up at Nottingham Forest and the wrong West Ham turns up because it is Moyes' last home game and it is the big farewell for him. And you said about the players not wanting to play. Maybe they need to play to prove to the new boss they're worth keeping. So I worry about all that. But I reckon if we can get a goal, we might give them a game. And I think,
Yeah,
you know,
I think
if
you
we
will.
get on it, I'd like to think, you know, we can get a point. But if, again, you know, against Everton, I thought Luton were great. Against Wolves, I didn't think we were that great. I thought, you know, to be fair, Wolves could have scored more. And, you know, so you get things like that going on in your life and you just think, well, I'll take it. And knowing our luck, we'll probably get the point and then Chelsea will go and be Chelsea and Nottingham Forest will win. And so, you know, if we get a point, it goes to the last game of the season. That would be very, very interesting. If we lose, we're relegated no matter what the other results are. So we've got to get something. 3 points would be much, much better for us. But yeah, I'm going. So I'm hoping I'm going to be relatively optimistic until the whistle blows and then we'll see how it starts. But I'm hoping we come back with a point at the minimum. And why can't we? We've done it before. I just worry about the other games. And I know that's out of our control. Because you know, the other day, Sheffield United went 1-0 up, didn't they, against Forest, and I'm thinking, oh, come on, Sheffield, just for my sake, come on, and then they lost, you know. So I just feel, you know, I can just see Chelsea turning up at the City Ground. I can see the atmosphere going berserk, and I can see them losing, and that doesn't do us any favors. But it doesn't put us out until the following Saturday. And all those pundits that said I know there's been points deductions. I've got to look over those now. But all those pundits said that, you know, no chance, down by Christmas, all that sort of shit. And we're still in it with 2 games to go. I'd have taken that at the very beginning of the season. So I'm just hopeful that 97th minute winner for Luton on Saturday, and I'll be very happy.
But listen, if that happens, then make sure you give Lawless a load of stick. That's all I'm saying. I think it'll be a draw this game. I actually do. I think Luton will pick up a point. I think Luton will pick up a point. I really do. I think West Ham are so dusty. They're just dead and buried, man. So, yeah, go on, Luton. Big up Luton.
And then we got Fulham after that, and Fulham are the only team in this division we haven't scored against. Well, it's the only team we haven't scored against in this division.
Oh, really?
We scored against everyone else.
Well, even if that's 1-1, you'll take it because it means you've scored against everyone then.
Well, if we've been relegated, yes, I will. But if we're in for it and we need to win the last game, no, I won't.
Yeah, you got to go for it. You got to go all out. But yeah, West Ham, Fulham, to the last 2 games. 2 games that you'd probably say you wouldn't mind having because they're not playing for anything. They're not fighting for their lives. They're not trying to get top 4. They're kind of on the beach, really. And Moyes is done and dusted. And Fulham, I mean, I'm praying with all my might that something might happen on Saturday against Man City, but I'm not holding up much hope, really. But there we go. Lil Dan, I want to come to yourself, man, because Wolves ain't really got much recognition this season, my friend, and I think you deserve it. I think Gary O'Neill has been phenomenal, mate. Absolutely phenomenal. And he's a manager people laughed at. I was guilty of putting Wolves down struggling this season. I actually put Bournemouth down struggling this season as well. And that was a kind of foolish thing to do now with both these sides that have really put me in the mud completely, really. Not that I wanted them to go down, really, because I have no affiliation with either of the clubs. But I think Areola and Gary O'Neill have really proven that if you stick by them and you give them what they want and allow them to work with a team, that they can do some serious business. And I think when people talk about Ten Hag at Man United, it's the players. I think, hang on a minute, like Gary O'Neill and Iriola haven't got their players yet. You know, they've just walked into the club and they've actually got a philosophy and a style of play which is attractive to watch and actually entertaining. And actually, do you know what? Big up to both of them, because I think Wolves and Bournemouth deserve a lot of credit this season. I think they've been phenomenal. Future for Wolves, bruv. What we saying, little Dan? What we saying? Excited?
It's so frustrating hearing you say that we've, sort of gone under the radar, because for me now it's becoming quite a repetitive thing that I'm hearing, and for me it sours how bad we're ending this season, because this season could have been something really special, but the January recruitment window was atrocious. The injuries to all of our forwards pretty much in the most important time of the year has really come back to bite us on the arse. Gary O'Neill hasn't been nominated for Manager of the Year. Iriola has just crept in at the end. And I feel like, yes, it's sour really, because we could have done so much more this season. Gary O'Neill has done wonders. Everyone predicted us to go down. Majority of Wolves fans was not optimistic going into that first game of the season away at Man United. But since then, he's really built a bond with the fans. The players are clearly playing for him, even though we sort of, from an outsider's point of view, it might look like we're already on the beach. I've not had an essence of that with this group of players this season. Them still literally running through walls for him. We're still depleted by injuries. And Gary O'Neill's done wonders. I hope when it comes to sort of June, July, he's not saying the same things that Lopetegui was last summer, because Lopetegui was saying that, we couldn't compete. The board had promised X, Y, and Z and not fulfilled it. And that's my biggest concern, is our owners board not backing Gary O'Neill this summer, because he'd be well within his right to say, fuck this, I'm off, if they don't back him this summer.
Well, if they don't, Dan, what your fans have got to do something about the ownership then, because that's a joke. Because you put yourself in a position, you don't want to go. You've been here before. Do you know what I mean? And if Gary O'Neill can prove what he can do with your team right now, and the board are saying, well, we can't do this, we can't do X, Y, Z, they're going to have to, because Wolves can push on here. Like, you're in a position right next season where you have no idea. Other than, and I don't want to say this because I'm Arsenal, other than City and Arsenal, in my opinion, are between 3rd and 12th. I have no idea what's going to happen. No idea. Right? I can't predict it at all. Right? So Wolves are in a position where you could easily be fighting for those European places, in my opinion, with the right additions. And if your board and your ownership ain't going to do that, your fan base has got to kick off, mate, because that's a joke. That's an absolute joke if that don't happen, in my opinion.
Yeah, we've got a sporting director called Matt Hobbs, who's been in the job about 18 months now, and he's doing a nice job under the radar. For me, obviously, I think we've pretty much relinquished the leash that Jorge Mendes had on the club now. We're not sort of in that barrel of we only sign Portuguese players now. I'm excited to see what Gary O'Neill wants as a sort of profile of a player this summer. They've got to back him. They haven't got to chuck a war chest at him. It's just got to be, smart recruitment. It can be done. Look at the Leicester years gone by. They spent, was it £500,000 on Mahrez? Jamie Vardy wasn't expensive. Kante was pennies at the time. You can buy good players if you recruit smartly. In the last sort of 18 months, we've recruited João Gomez, who's going to go probably 50-60 million when he leaves Wolves. We spent £12 million on him. He's a player similar to Kobe Mino this season. Still a young player, should be in the young player of the year nominations for me. João Gomez, if you're going to pick Kobe Mino, same sort of similar age, both done wonders in the centre midfield. But yeah, like Rich mentioned earlier, Wolves on a top 6 side, are they? So they don't get the media coverage that these sort of players deserve. Pedro now should be in the Young Player of the Year award, same as Michael Elise, but yeah, again, not a top 6 club, so they don't get the media coverage. Wolves are yet again on a bit of a tightrope on where we can go as a club. We can either push on and we start looking at those European places again. Because you mentioned anything from 3rd to 12th could be anyone's game. Chelsea and West Ham have been pretty poor overall this season, yet they're still pushing for the European places. Wolves could sell João Gomez, Pedro Neto, Ryan Ait-Nouri this summer. Don't recruit properly, and we're being everyone's prediction for a relegation battle again. And Wolves are the sort of club that could easily go back-to-back relegations if it turns sour. When Wolves fans go toxic, we go full haul on toxicity. So yeah, we're on a tightrope as a club yet again. But I'll be renewing my season ticket, and that's our Saturdays, isn't it?
Big up, man. No, I love that. Love that. And hopefully things will start to turn positive for you because I think Gary O'Neill deserves it. I think, honestly, I think he's been fantastic for you guys. I really do. Another person who's been fantastic for Palace has been Glasner Rich. And also, I've got to big him up, Dougie Friedman. Now, there's a lot of rumours that there's links with, I think there was a comment I put up here saying that he's linked to Newcastle and what is Rich's thoughts. Now, I know that this guy has bought you the likes of Elise and Eze, and I don't know how true this is. And I know that Ashworth going from Newcastle is looking like they're going to look to try and get somebody in. Thoughts on Palace under Glasner in the last few weeks would be good. And also your thoughts on Freeman. And do you think he might go?
I'll start with Friedman because that's a bit shorter than the Glasgow talk. Apparently he's agreed terms. It's just whether he wants to go. I know we're talking about losing Eze, losing Elise. I think losing Dougie Freeman will probably be the biggest loss for our club. The work he's done in identifying talent in the Championship for peanuts is incredible. Like, you've mentioned Adam Wharton, £18 million. He's already 25 plus already. And he's had 10 games? You know? Eze was, 12 million with obviously add-ons. Elise was 8 million. Daniel Munoz, 8.5 million. Euros, sorry. 8.5 million euros. So, peanuts. He's gone out there and he's done a wonderful job. And look, it's a Newcastle bigger club. We can't hide that, you know. And if they want to take it, I'm sure he's probably thinking long and hard about taking that role. But it'll be a massive loss to us, and it'll be very difficult to replace him. But on the flip side, the good part of it, Oliver Glasner, I can't believe it. I knew he was good, you know, but I think it's been magnified as well because of how bad we were under Roy. You know, but then I actually look at it and I think, no, actually, Glasner needs his props because we're now going into games, and don't forget, our running was stupid. Man City, Liverpool, Newcastle, West Ham were in there, Wolves, Villa, Man United, and we're not afraid to attack. We're not afraid to attack teams. Monday night, we should have had about 7 or 8 goals. Yes, they were depleted, but I think even if they had a fully stripped, so the way that they're coached compared to the way we're coached, I still think we would have beat them. You know, and it's going to be a massive window for us. If we can get this right, we could kick on. You know, as Dad was saying, the same with Wolves. It's a massive window because we're kind of both in that same ilk. Kind of Wolves had European football before, but we're a team that are here. We could get there, but then we get hindered, and then we're looking at we're down there. It's so annoying and frustrating, you know. If we get this summer window right, we could really kick on.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Palace have got some quality. I was speaking to D last night on the other show, and he was saying that Mark Guehi could be the one that would be looked at as leaving, as opposed to Elisa or Eze. I think you just got to try and keep hold of all of them, man. I think you just got to try and do your best to keep hold of all of them.
It's going to be difficult. It will be very
difficult. It will be. Elise, the release clause, is it 60 million, Rich, or is that nonsense? Or
so the reports are there 60 million. However,
do you think he's going to go though? Do you think he's going to go? Elise?
It's so difficult. I think he will go if it's the right club. I know Manchester United are sniffing, but I personally don't think he wants to go there.
He should not go there. I'll tell you that now.
You know, so I think
he's off to Villa.
Right.
Oh, what? We shouldn't
come in, Billy. Your time is up.
With this Villa talk. Now, listen. Granted, they're going to be a Champions League side this season, but with someone like Elise, and this is no disrespect to Villa, please, any Villa fans in the chat, but he's probably going to look for a team that traditionally make, say, Champions League football year in, year out. And
we're looking at him. I know that. I know we're looking at him.
See, this is where it gets difficult with Arsenal.
Exactly. Because whether he might pick Villa and go, actually, I want to play football, because he's not going to get exactly that. Yeah, he's not going to get ahead of Saka. So that's why I don't think we'll get him.
And that will be from a personal footballing level, that would be the wrong move for Elise to do. Go to Arsenal. He'll be number 2. to Saka, which would be a shame.
Which is why I think Chelsea and United would be good moves if he wants first team football. I just have no idea where they're going as clubs. Like they look a mess, both of them. Do you know what I
They're a
mean?
big mess.
So if I'm Elise, I might be tempted to, if they're the only two clubs in, I might be tempted to stay another year and go, right, what's happening here? Like, where do I need to go? Do you know what I'm saying? Man
The
City,
other clubs,
however,
Liverpool as well, because what's happening with Salah? Is he
yeah,
going Saudi?
well, if Salah goes, then that's a good move for him, I think. Liverpool.
City is a great shout because Foden's now moved into a 10.
Yeah.
He's going to have to bide his time, get used to Pep Roulette stuff. But there's one club that no one's mentioned that I'm hoping he does because it will make it be a bit more easy for me. It's PSG. Why not? He's a French national. Go play Champions League football then and go with something.
Yeah, that's
Good shout.
It is a good shout, and wouldn't be a bad
What about Mitchell, Rich? I think that lad, the left back, Mitchell, somebody might look at him. I think he goes under the radar. I think he's a terrific player.
He is a good player. I think it's a big summer for him too because he's naturally a good defensive player. He's doing all right going forward. Like obviously he's got into the box. He scored his goal on Monday. But I know Glaston's going to want to get a mirror image of Daniel Munoz as our left wing back.
Right.
Someone who's literally going to be doing that and we'll have a bit more quality going forward. But as a 1v1 defender, I've got no complaints with Mitchell. He's been brilliant. But you know what? Why can't we have him and another player have a bit of squad depth? Because that's what we've lacked.
Yeah, that's what you need
every season. So yeah.
This is the thing. You built your 11, but you need kind of 15, 16, 17 players, and that's the hard thing because everyone gets their 11, and you get a couple of injuries, and then boom. But Palace could be in with a good shout. And do you know what's mad? If Luton do the unthinkable and beat West Ham, and Manchester City smash West Ham, which I think they'll do, Palace win their games, you will finish above West Ham, and D will be allowing Lawless to wear a Palace shirt and eat a chili. It would just be the funniest ending to a season.
It will be hilarious.
It would be hilarious, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. But Dave, Luton, Lawless is going to be back. We got to beat Luton. I'll say that. I think they just got to get a point against Luton, and then Palace can't get ahead of them. So that's all that he wants. He just wants to. He don't care. He's like, season done. Just draw at Luton. I don't care if we don't beat him. Just don't finish below Palace.
100th minute winner. That make it even better, wouldn't it? 100th minute. On a dodgy VAR as well. Let's have that.
It would, man. It would. Dave, let's lastly come to you, my bro. Chelsea picking up a bit of form at the wrong time to go and face them, if I'm honest. Kind of fancy them to win. But you just need to pick up a point. Is that right? Or do you need to win?
Yeah. I'd like us to win, obviously.
Well, yeah.
I'd like us to carry on from what we did last weekend. That'd be good. I mean, I'm sitting here really with Nottingham Forest. All there is between now and 7:30 on the 19th of May. Nothing else matters. There's nothing beyond that. There's no point having a conversation about close seasons and moving on and all this kind of stuff. It's these next 10 days that matter. And here I am sitting here, looking at the weekend. And if somebody says, we're all right now, I'll go bonkers because we're not. You know what I mean? I'm sitting here having to trust Tottenham Hotspur and West Ham United. Now, don't let anybody tell you that is a solid base, a solid platform for thinking anything, because they are looking, both of them. I mean, West Ham at Stamford Bridge ran away. They literally basically stole money from their supporters. They were an embarrassment, true embarrassment. And if there's any football integrity, Luton will go and beat them on Saturday, right? The way I go to the City Ground on Saturday, and we will know by the time we kick off at 5:30, we will know what Burnley have done at Tottenham, and we will know what Luton have done at West Ham. Right now, that is kind of an advantage. Whether Forest are good enough to take advantage of it, I just don't know. So I'm going to err on the pessimistic side and it goes to the last day. If say Burnley win at Tottenham and we get beat, which the way Chelsea are playing at the moment and where we are in the table and what we've done for the majority of this season, you'd say, Chelsea win at our place. Luton could feasibly beat West Ham because West Ham are just a black hole of nothingness, an abyss. right? They are just like, they all hate each other over there. They seem like the unhappiest club in Britain at the moment. They all hate their manager, who's won a European trophy and done lots of good things for them. So they clearly can't appreciate somebody having taken them from a level where they were to a level that's higher, right? And Tottenham, I mean, you know, I watched Tottenham at Liverpool. Themselves are busted flush after the last few weeks. You know, 4-0 down, and they just didn't seem to know what they're doing. I don't trust either of Tottenham or West Ham. I mean, the thing with both is you'd like to think they were so bad last week. Going home, do they want a toxic afternoon at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium or the London Stadium, right? They're almost, the pair of them are going to be playing their own fans, because Tottenham are going to have to play their own fans before they get to dealing with Burnley. And similarly, West Ham are going to have to deal with all those, you know, cyanide bubbles floating around that stadium before they get to dealing with Luton. And then we're over here somewhere thinking, you know, in an ideal world, I'd like Nuno to sort of block off all knowledge of those games and just go play Chelsea as they are in front of us now. Obviously, Palmer is a massive threat. He's better than anybody we've got by a mile. You know, Madueke's playing quite well. You know, they seem like they've come into themselves, Chelsea, and it is the wrong time. The only thing I do think is this time last year, Dan, you came to us and we beat you 1-0. You had, I think, 82% of the ball, and we won 1-0. And for all that we didn't have the ball, we were relatively comfortable. It's got there's a little bit of symmetry there, you know, but a point. I mean, let me just say from a footballing point of view, just taking my Forest hat off, it's good that it's going to be decided on the grass and not in a committee room, right? Let me just say that. That's good for football. That it's, you know, I didn't expect us to get any back. We didn't get any back. Good. Now let the footballers do the talking with the ball, right? And it's decided on the pitch. A point. I think we get a point. We finish Burnley off, and then if we mirror Luton's result or better it, then if we keep the distance between us and Luton to 3 points, our goal difference then kicks in. So our goal difference, Burnley's goal difference, I believe, is -38. Luton's is something like -25 or 26, and ours is -18, I think. So that, you know, if that goal difference is kind of like our virtual point, and in the fullness of time, that may prove to be, you know, the little bit of that little fraction that keeps us up. But no, nothing's done yet. We're in a good position.
It's going to go down. I think it is going to go down too, isn't it? I think everything will. I just kind of feel like it might be, I said this to Billy on the show the other day, a bit of an anticlimax. It might be like City going to win it. Top four's kind of done. The bottom three gone down again. Oh, it wasn't actually that much of an exciting season after all. And it's a shame because I thought it was going to be real hecked up. I thought it was going to be like, wow, we don't know who's going to win out of Arsenal and City. We don't know if Liverpool going to be 3-horse race. Top four's last game of the season. Top six still. Europa Conference League. We've got 5 teams that can go down. It's kind of all coming towards a bit of a close now, isn't it? I think everyone's like, next season, please.
I think, Dan, the result that sort of changed the dynamic at the bottom so markedly was that Newcastle win at Turf Moor. It was just so comfortable and so easy. You know, the conversation I think those lads had last week was about, and Nat was on, bless her. She's brilliant, Natalie. We were all talking about momentum, and Burnley had it, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. They were awful. They were feeble, Burnley. You know, so I think they're like 5 back from us now. Luton are 3 back from us. I mean, to be fair to us at Sheffield United, okay, we should have scored in the first minute. Woody put one past the post. But then Blades were better than us first half. In fact, they score, definite penalty, you know, and then we get back level with the beauty from Callum. They have 4 or 5 chances. They all miss, which is why they're going down. We think maybe it's our day. Second half, it's one-way traffic and it's all Forest. If Forest can replicate what they did second half at Blades against a better team on Saturday, then they have a chance. But no, nothing's done. It won't be done until mathematics tell me. So Dave can still think he's in it. Burnley can still think they're in it. You know, and we'll see how we go. I mean, but, you know, we'll see. What I don't want it to be, I don't want us to have to go to Turf Moor on the last day of the season and for Burnley to be a live prospect, because if it's a cup final, Turf Moor will be a hostile place for us to go, you know. So no, nothing's done, mate. And I don't, you know, I won't sit here and say it's done until it's done, Dan. Never have done, never will, mate.
Listen, I think that's wise, man. Before we wrap up, it's time
I think we're either going to win, draw, or lose. That's the prediction.
Love that lad.
Never gets old. Never gets old.
Who does he
Neil Tanner,
support, by the way?
I've no idea who he is or what he supports. I've just got sent it once. I thought it's got to be used. Lil Dan, I know you've got to shoot. So what are you going? You've actually got Palace, actually. I didn't really talk much about it, but Wolves Palace at the weekend. What are you saying, prediction before you get out of here?
I think we're going to get slapped again this weekend. I predicted it last week. I said Man City were going to slap Wolves. They didn't have Champions League. They didn't have a midweek game. Palace have got the better front line available to them at the moment. Elise, Eze and Mateta. Just an absolute handful. Glasner needs like locking up, because if these handing out bets they involve tattoos, the guy's trouble. We haven't got a bad record against Palace at home. But I just feel like we haven't really got a strong squad at the moment. Players are still building up the fitness, but hopefully we can finish the season on a high, because I think Gary O'Neill and the fan base deserve it. Because pretty tough. Palace on a good side, got a lot of momentum at the moment, but I think Palace might edge it on the day, maybe 2-1 Palace. Hopefully we'll get a win. I said finish the season on a high, but I mean Palace have got better forward players available at the moment who are a bit more in form, so 2-1 Palace.
Interesting, man. Just to let you know, Lil Dan, Olympiacos are already 1-0 up against Villa, apparently. So
Marinakis.
It ain't over to the fat chairman sings, Dave.
or has his enemies, buried in the bottom of the Trent with concrete socks, mate.
Before Lil Dan goes, Rich, just quickly prediction.
I'm going to say 3-1 Palace.
Okay, interesting, man.
It
Interesting.
doesn't matter either way, Dan, because Palace is still fucking poxy as fuck.
What a way to win.
Did you mention that ain't Nori's going? I hope you take him off your hands, to be fair.
There's more chance of Elise going to Villa than Nori going to Palace.
That's probably true, man. That's probably true.
It is probably true, but he's a good player. He's a very good player.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Dave, quick predictions before we close. What are you saying?
I'll take a score draw minimum. Score draw minimum. So I'm hoping it's going to be a draw. I'm just going to say a draw, but I'm hopefully obviously for a win. So I'll go for a score draw of any description.
Interesting. Dave, what are you saying lastly to close?
Forest 1, Chelsea 1. We're going to watch Luton Town. We're going to Xerox them, photocopy them, and do exactly the same as them. And I think, actually, Dan, I think the City ground will be good for atmosphere on Saturday, tea time. Maybe, knowing what's gone in the couple of hours previous. And you know what, mate? For the first time last weekend at Bramall Lane, I saw some rapport between Nuno and the Forest fans, and that was really good to see. It's taken a bit of time. So I think we'll draw 1-1. But like you say, if the Chelsea of the other night turn up, we've got a big job on. So we'll see. But I'm going to go 1-1, mate.
Interesting, man. Interesting. Big up to all of you for coming on. Make sure you do us a favor in the chat. Big up to all of you for your interaction. Make sure you like and subscribe and you follow all of these guys on socials. Please, really important that you do that. And make sure you get us up to 20K, which is our next target. So much appreciated if you hit that subscribe button, which is absolutely free. Please make sure you do that. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take it easy and up the Arsenal. Latest, people. Peace.